Building block 3, context. Communication can occur in a cultural, physical, social context. This is where the communication occurs, would be the physical context there. Examples of physical context could be a classroom, a bar, a church. This would be where exactly the physical space where communication can occur. We tend to act very differently depending on where we are in terms of a physical context, and that'll call for different behavior in different cultures as well. There's a lot of different textbook examples that I want you to read out. Traditional South African cultures, what to do there in those contexts. And then there's also another example of a political context, trying to, for example, the active protesters who throw blood or red paint on people, wear fur coats. We must consider also those political contexts. And then lastly, examine the historical context of communication, which would have to do with the legacy of apartheid. So they're just going on to talking about that context is also has to do with the physical, the historical, the social. All these contexts calls for different communication and also sensitivity in those different cultural contexts as well. Let's go on to the last building block, power. Okay. Power is always present when we communicate with each other. In a society, there would be a sense of a social hierarchy because some groups just do have more power than others. So there is a lot of examples here as well. We can create and maintain communication systems that reflect, reinforce, and promote their own ways of thinking. This would be part of the dominant culture who might take over the communication system and enforce their way of thinking through, advertising, communicating their values through programming, and then transferring over that power. And then once again, we do have people that occupy roles of higher power, that have a little bit high in the social hierarchy, have more power, and therefore can communicate their messages. I also want to note that people that are in institutions, like academic institutions, tend to hold temporary power there, that they are the ones, giving the lecture, but that students can negotiate power and also try to, control the flow of the conversation. Okay, within all the examples, which I just want you to read through on your own as well, they're just talking about how people in different power positions can control, the audience, and that we also tend to, in terms of, they say here in the Hurricane Katrina victims, is that it's also related to a power structure. Keep in mind, when the Hurricane Katrina happened, there were a lot of victims. People may be a bit slow to help. A lot of people are still affected by Hurricane Katrina. And when it came to the Hidden Hills fire that happened, a lot of firefighters were very on the job, quick to respond, saving the celebrities' homes. And it was just, they say, a very different kind of way of how power was affected there, because maybe people were, in terms of the careers that they have, they were quick to jump with the Hidden Hills fire than helping others, in the Hurricane Katrina flood as well. The means to challenge power can happen through boycotts, strikes, letters, and so on. Okay, we're going to be moving on to the barriers to intercultural communication in the next clip. Let me know if you have any questions about this particular work so far. So in this particular clip, we have context, and then when we're in different contexts, historical context, a physical context, we have to behave differently and be very sensitive to that kind of context as well.